Hey, Michelle.
Hello, Mel.
Good to see you.
You too. You too. It's happy Tuesday morning for me here in Australia, and happy Monday evening for you in the US.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really happy to join you again this week for a little chat. And you and I have been talking a little bit offline about something pretty broad. We've been talking about toxic workplaces.
Mm,
So I think you and I have both been hearing from a lot of women in different companies, different spaces that are dealing with something that we would put under the umbrella of toxic workplaces. So just talk to us a little bit about that. What are you hearing from women these days about
mm.
toxic workplace problems?
There's kind of two. Thanks, Mel. There's a couple of things that are going on. So I post on social media and on my blogs and things like that around creating inclusive workplaces, particularly for women, and using an intersectional focus. So looking a whole bunch of things. So and typically when I post about what bad looks like, to give a sense of this, particularly for leaders to say, hey, if this is happening, this is bad, and here are some steps to do, to take to address that. I typically get a lot of either comments on the post, yes, that's me, I've experienced that, or other examples, or in this context, I get a lot of private messages. Thanks for calling that out, Michelle. This is what I'm experiencing right now. What should I do about it? What could I do? And it's just as we were talking offline, he's gathering a lot of steam. So there's a lot of people, a lot of women, because we focus on women and career and leadership. There are enough women reaching out to both of us to say, what can I do to survive in this workplace that I'm in that is just, it's either kind of bad or really awful. And the easy thing is just quit and find another job. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has career mobility. Perhaps the job market's tight, well, depending, whatever. So we've been noodling on that and saying, what could we do about that? But it's definitely a thing, which worries me a lot.
Yeah, so maybe let's give a few examples of what we're talking about, what people are dealing with, because I think that'll shed some light on, why we're going to pull together more robust resources,
Mm,
in particular inside a career that soars. So, one example, one recent one that comes to mind for me is a young engineer that I've talked to that has been struggling with a superior. It's her only manager. She doesn't have any other managers in her group, that has been extremely condescending and not helping her grow in her role. So we're talking entry level engineer, and she doesn't have the support that she needs to do her job well. And she felt really uncomfortable with this idea of, can I go to HR? Is
mm.
Can I do that? And if I do that, am I going to get the help that I need? So that's one example. But what's something that you're hearing?
Yeah, so we talked last week around gaslighting, and it's kind of a catch-all terminology for a whole bunch of stuff. But I guess what I'm hearing, well, one particular example is not being recognised for the work that I'm doing, and this is a live conversation in one of my coaching calls. So this woman is doing really, really good work, and interestingly, because one of the things that I wanted to understand was it promotable work. So because sometimes we can do a lot of work and it won't necessarily be the stuff that's seen as that will get you a promotion. Not everyone wants a promotion, but this woman was doing a lot of really good work and just not getting the credit or even the recognition from her direct manager, and that was having an impact on her being able to do her annual performance review, salary negotiation, but also for other stakeholders in the
Mm-hmm.
organisation who just simply weren't taking her seriously because she didn't have that advocacy from her manager. So, you know, one of the things that is I guess it's a conundrum for me is that manager aware that they are not bringing out the greatness in that person? So she's doing great work. So that's the first one. So is that manager aware of the great work that she's doing? Is that manager guiding her to do the right stack of work, i.e. the work that's going to contribute to the team, contributing to the organisation's strategic and financial goals? If not, why not? But then from her perspective, is she doing the right work?
Mm-hmm.
Is she focusing on the right things? Is she thinking about what's important to her manager? So there's some stuff that is, I think there's clearly interpersonal conflict which occurs in workplaces, and I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about more of the, I guess, the skills-based stuff. Is she skilled enough to know what she should be focusing on and using the language to talk about what she's doing and contributing? Is the manager skilled enough to recognise how to coach and develop their team to work on the right stack of work and contribute to the manager's KPIs and things like that? So I think there's, I'm looking at it from a skills perspective now, less around the, I guess the interpersonal stuff. But I think the interpersonal stuff's important, and that's where I want to talk. Well, as I said to you offline, I'm going to talk to some experts in workplace psychology and get them to weigh in about how we might help women navigate those really strong interpersonal conflicts which do occur. Anyway, so that's what I'm noodling on.
Yeah, I love it. I'm looking forward to organizing that and hosting with you. That's going to be really impactful. One of the other things that you just made me think about is this kind of, you get to these points in your career where you really do have to manage up and find a way to orchestrate what you need. And if, the person perhaps immediately above you can't do that for you or is unwilling, then you have to find some kind of workaround. So,
so what do you, so on that then, so what do you do when someone says, but I don't play politics, Mel? I'm not interested in politics at work? Because I think that's a limiting mindset.
I 100% agree with you. My response is essentially that everyone engages in politics in the workplace, whether they believe they are or not. Every single workplace, no matter how healthy it is, has politics. And I view politics as human tendencies and behaviors and interactions, because at the end of the day, we're all animals. We are animals, we're mammals, and we have these behaviors that come up for us. And as an individual trying to manage a career, we have to manage our behavior and sometimes use our knowledge of interactions to help us get to where we want to go. I feel like that's pretty nebulous, but maybe
well, I think it's, we have human dynamics,
right.
The dynamics are created anytime you have more than two people in any kind of environment, right?
Exactly.
And those dynamics will be created on our mindsets, our biases, our skill, our experience. We're a whole bunch of atoms thrown together, and we are mammals, as you said. But I think it's naive if you ignore human dynamics.
Well, yes. Okay. So what I want to say on the human dynamics piece is that people like to hire, promote, and work with other people that they know, like, and respect. And it is a lie to tell yourself that you don't act that way. We all do. We all do. And if we can accept that truth and recognize it, then we can begin to think about how we can use our own awareness and behaviors to get where we want to go, right? It's not manipulation. It's really more about self-awareness and empathy for other people, and using that to change our behaviors so that we can get people to know, like, and respect us. And that serves our greater mission, right? I think if any woman out there watching us right now, if you're a woman out there watching us right now, I believe that you are smart and you have goals that you care about, and recognizing that politics is a piece of that is only going to help in the journey. I feel like we could do an episode about this one.
Oh yeah, well, we kind of have, because we've talked about, the agile leader in one of our podcast episodes, and part of that I talked about Daniel Goleman's EQ model and how important it is to leadership, because part of EQ is not just self-awareness, it is also self-leadership, but it's reading the room, it's relationship management and organizational dynamics. Being really good at that is super, super important. And and I did make a comment on a friend of mine's LinkedIn post last week about soft skills. I don't agree that they're soft skills. That is a outdated term, because these are business skills, and leadership skills. If you cannot read the room and understand gender dynamics, well, that's going to be a career derailer for you. And I think back to our original, what we were talking around toxic workplaces, interpersonal skills, interpersonal conflict. It's also lifting up to say, I think, two things. What work am I working on? Is it promotable, recognizable in terms of the strategic goals of our team, of my manager, of the business? But also, is this interpersonal conflict I'm having? Or is it me not reading the room or the other person effectively enough? And I'm using that both from the woman and the manager's perspective, because I think there's opportunity for both to reflect on whether they're doing that effectively enough. And perhaps, in fact, it won't be one-sided. There's probably opportunity on both.
Absolutely. So I think
that's not to dismiss that toxic workplaces don't exist, because they do. We know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we hang on to the phrase promotable tasks, because I think it might help our listeners to hear more about that. So let's be sure we hit on promotable tasks on another live in the future.
We will indeed. Well, I can leave you with one piece of advice. Go and look up office housework, and don't do that.
Yeah, well, and look at the office housework episode of Lead to Soar. It's one of the short ones. So it's a mini episode that's maybe around 10 minutes on Lead to Soar. Check that out. And of course, we are headed into season 4. So season 4 of Lead to Soar has started. So check it out, leadtosoar.com, or you can find it wherever you find podcasts.
Awesome. Good chat, Mel. So anyone tuning in, we're grappling with this gnarly issue of toxic workplaces. And I think the call to action here for us is, how do we help women survive whilst they're in a toxic workplace, and doing whatever they can to either fix it or get out? And then also, what's the call to action for folks who may be leading inadvertently or not aware of that their workplace is toxic? What should they be doing about it? So stay tuned. We're working out what we're going to do about that, and get some really good information.
Excellent. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Mel. See you, folks. See you next week.
See y'all later.